Hello, welcome to another Burgundy with Tweedy video, blah blah blah. I look like a sort of Thunderbird's marionette, don't I? Sorry, it's my garden yet again. I will at some point get to a more interesting backdrop. Perhaps I'll just batch all of these boring gardening videos up into a single sort of update. Anyway, this is a very fancy looking bottle, isn't it? The producer I'm struggling to find the name of here is Chateau de Marsannay. Presumably they're based in Marsannay, I would assume. And it's a Gevrey Chambertin from 2020. I actually had a Fizan from the same producer the other day, but just neglected to do any tasting notes at all for that. But that was pleasant enough. Sort of slightly soft berry fruit. Forget the vintage now. So I'm hoping this will show something like that, but a little bit more Gevrey character, a bit more concentration and intensity. Gloomy Sunday, early evening, late afternoon, isn't it? I think it has been raining a bit on and off. Hopefully I can get away with it for a couple of minutes before it starts again. Well, that gloom aside, it's a darkish colour, isn't it? A dark ruby there, but nice and glossy looking. I do like them when they've got that little bit of sheen, that little bit of reflectiveness like that. What's my first impression? Before any swirling, almost a tiny bit, ever so slightly sanguinous, bloody, almost a sort of meaty-like note to that. Something fleshy, but it is really fruit, and it's just fruit expressed in a slightly unusual way. And I'm sure with a swirl, that will transform into something much more fruity. But what fruit is the eternal question? I don't know. Actually struggling with that. I want it to be cherry because it's a Gevrey Chambertin. I'm not sure I would say that actually is. Possibly something in the kind of blackberry sort of territory. Mûr, blackcurrant maybe, cassis. Something else. Interesting. Yeah, so a sort of a slightly rustic fruit character maybe. Slightly countryside-y, rural sort of fruit. Hedgerows. Something like that maybe. And then that slight hint of meatiness that was just there initially. I'm not really getting that so much now. Okay, interesting. Give it a sip. On the palate, different again. A little bit sort of fuller, richer, and perhaps even slightly plummier. A tiny little bit of a hint of that Chinese plum sauce type character that I sometimes find, but certainly not sort of thick and syrupy and gloopy. I suppose there's a little bit of savouriness there. It's of a sort of medium body, I suppose, by Burgundy standards. But on the palate, it does have an appealing hint of richness. Not sweetness, but I'm reminded of something like, I don't know, toffee almost. It's hard to imagine toffee without it being sweet, but slightly hard to pin down sort of a wine, this one. I think I'm enjoying it. I'm just struggling to describe it. From the fruit character on the nose to the rich but not sweet and medium-bodied but somehow also sort of dense. Very, very difficult to describe. Should we look at the cork for a moment? There might be some simple facts on there. This looks like a diam to me. I actually can't, in this light, can't quite read the number on there. Very small letters and it's speckled background. Perhaps I'll take a photo with my phone and that might be more apparent. Okay, enough diversion to talk about the cork. Coming back to that nose, I am thinking slightly plummy now. Okay, this is starting to come together a little bit. I think a little bit more plummy, dark plum. Definitely not obviously getting cherries here. There's other sort of stone fruit possibly, or berry fruit, but darker and not cherries, and not sort of obviously black cherry, but yeah, plum, I think, on the nose. And I think I'm going to say plum on the palate as well, but in quite a nice, light, nicely balanced way with some slight savoury hints. I almost feel like I've got a flash of tea there. I'm all over the place with this. I don't feel like I'm doing a particularly good job at all of trying to pin this down, but interesting, quite nice. It is a little bit different from that Fizan the other day. That was sort of soft berry fruit. This is something a little bit more serious, I think, a little bit darker certainly in terms of the fruit character, and some sort of richer, deeper characters to it. And I do quite like that. I just feel completely incapable of adequately describing it. I might just stop talking there. Right, cheers.